Welcome back again. So excited you're sticking with me. As we continue delving into instructional strategies, let's start by taking a moment and looking at calendar systems. Schedules or calendar systems are often overlooked or downplayed as not being necessary because the student knows the routine. However, whether a student knows the routine or not, calendars can make a great, meaningful way to increase literacy opportunities throughout the student's day. In Robbie Bleha's book, Calendars for Students with Multiple Impairments, including Deafblindness, she breaks calendars into three main categories. First, we have anticipation calendars, when a student is presented with a single object that represents a single activity. And when that activity is finished, it goes into a finish basket. And then the next activity is presented in the to-do basket. So students can begin to anticipate what's coming up. Second, there are daily calendars that have some or all of the activities for the day listed, depending on how many activities the student can process on the schedule at one time. And thirdly, we have expanded calendars that allow us to look at what the main activity over several days or weeks would be. These do not have every detail of every day, but the main events listed. Each of these calendars can provide literacy opportunities since they are designed for a student with cognitive and communication level differences. A student could use one system until they're ready to advance to another, or a daily calendar could be used with objects as well as a weekly or monthly calendar, depending on the student's cognitive and physical abilities to access the necessary information. When you use a schedule or a calendar system, this system can provide communication opportunities. The symbols paired with these activities help develop receptive and expressive language skills. These symbols and activities can lend themselves to social conversations. The process of using the calendar systems can help a student develop the concept of time and sequence. The process of using the calendar systems can also provide emotional support because the ability to communicate about the activities and to understand what is happening in his or her day. An understanding of one's day can help reduce anxiety and increase cooperative behaviors. When a student can anticipate there is a preferred activity coming, he or she may be able to be more cooperative to get through the non-preferred task because she understands it will be over soon and she can go on to the preferred activity. Now, let's take a look at those schedules and how they can lend themselves to teaching writing skills. Downing says that using a daily planner or a schedule helps the student anticipate the day, but when it is in an accessible manner, it provides appropriate reading and writing opportunities. For example, with a visual schedule, a student can cross an item off when it's finished. Even this simple act can help reinforce the importance of learning to write for the student. The student could help organize or even put the icons on the schedule. Both putting the visual representation on or off is a form of written expression. If the student knows the routine, it gives an opportunity to write it out more independently. As well, this gives the social opportunity to communicate about the activities for the day. Okay, I just wanted to show you really quick. Here's a couple of examples of alternative writing options. So in this one, the student would use their name to come and check to see what's next on the schedule. And when they've done that task and they come back to check it, they would be like, okay, that's finished. So they're crossing it off their list. Same thing, reverse. Morning, get up, you get started, you get to school, and you have the choices down here on the table. And you'd be like, what's first, going to breakfast or getting your backpack? Oh, going to breakfast. So they could choose and then put it on the schedule to write their daily schedule. Another example of an alternative writing option would be when you're using a checklist or a to-do schedule, as the icons are already on here listed and ready to go. When you push it, get clothes out of the dryer, it reads it to you so you can hear it and see the icon.
Get clothes
All
out
done.
of the dryer.
And they're all done now, so then you do the next step. And then when that step's all done,
Put
All
the wet
done.
clothes from the
you've crossed that one off your list. And there are apps out there for the whole events of the day or task list for the items within a single task. And you could arrange them either way. Now, writing on this one might be a bit more challenging for some students who maybe don't have the phonemic skills or the fine motor skills to type in an on-screen keyboard. Those are things to consider when deciding whether you're going to use this for reading or writing. And for a really beginning student, you might just wanting them to cross it off. Again, things to consider for writing. And I still hear a few of you saying he doesn't need a schedule. He knows it by heart. Let me ask if you're willing to give up your calendar for a whole week because you know your daily routine by heart. Do you ever need to refer to your daily calendar? My guess is you answered yes. And to that, I say, therefore, our students need to refer to their calendar every day too, especially when these symbols are the only way that they may have to talk about what they're going to do in their day. It gives the opportunity to communicate and express what they like and don't like and have that social communication opportunity that is meaningful. Browder and colleagues state it is very important for every student to learn to write enough to have a signature. Any distinctive mark can become a signature. So be in touch with your occupational therapist to find out a way to help a student hold a writing utensil or a stamp or some other kind of tool so that they can practice a signature every time an assignment is turned in. A signature can be put on the front of a folder activity, written at the top of a piece of paper, or printed out on a printed out piece of media that they hand in, so that there will be a chance to practice writing skills several times every day. Downing suggests using a self-monitoring checklist for students to indicate if he or she did or didn't do the right behavior. This can be as simple as a visual yes and no system, a happy or sad face system, which adds to literacy opportunity for reading and writing in the daily routine because the student can circle or place an icon on a behavior board or select it in whatever system works best for that student as a form of written expression to indicate yes, they did the behavior correctly or no, they didn't. Another opportunity for meaningful social interaction and literacy experiences. Another way to offer writing practice is journal writing. This activity lends itself to a wide range of choice making. The student can use pencil and paper and write freely without any demands, use picture cards or select topics. They could arrange words on a card in order to write a sentence. They could have fill in the blank word cards from a word bank. By having choices of interest where the student wants to be engaged, increases the opportunity to practice communicating, social interaction, and gain meaning from others in that social interaction over their own writing choices. Here's an example of having menu options available when journal writing, or maybe for other kinds of assignments. As you can see, there's a who and a did what and a where in a word bank, and the student can select one from each category, matching it to the form board, as you can see on the lower right of the picture. Another strategy for writing would be create a simple sentence starter and then possible ending choices and let the student put them together. This is an option to work on sentences that make sense, even though it may be funny. These two cubes have a who phrase on one die and a did what phrase on the other die. So when you roll them, you always have a sentence that makes sense, but it's going to sound a little silly. It can be recorded on a piece of paper or other options, depending on the type of technology you're using. For the student who's, say, using a switch, they can easily participate by pushing the dice off the table. But if that's still too physically challenging, then they can have a switch with a message that comments with open-ended comments like, "That's funny," "That's silly," "Make another one," "I like that sentence," "Put it on my paper." This could be one option for some students who need modified form for working on spelling words. For some students with more cognitive challenges, hold up one letter card and have only one word available so that they can learn to look at and choose the letter that goes with the word. Then eventually give 2 choices to fill in the blank of the one word at a time. Keep in mind, we may not want to wait for a student to master these words before introducing and working on other words after a week or 2, but depending on the student's level of progress and experiences, we may want to move on to increase the number of positive, social, and meaningful experiences instead of boring them with the same words over and over and over again. In other words, keep it interesting. You may want to switch words periodically, but if the student learns the systematic process of choosing letters and is given the opportunity for social feedback, they will be learning from that process. Here is another option. Another way a student might be writing to participate in daily routines. She fills in the parts that she can write, but the word card choices are available to complete other parts of her daily writing book. Remember, we need to make the work doable in a reasonable time frame, as well as keeping it interesting and fun. Again, this is another Pinterest idea. There are some amazing people who've created a lot of resources here. So don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. Use the ideas that are out there. This is another way a student could be constructing their own words. I can even envision a notebook with several of the same letters, especially in more commonly used ones like S and A. And again, it's not an end-all, be-all, fix-all that we're going for, but another method to increase the interactions between our unique learner and others, providing access in a meaningful way. I'm sure most of us know, if you've worked with a speech pathologist for very long, offering choices is a good place to start to gain a student's interest and motivation and compliance. In Erickson and Copenhaver's work, the authors remind us that we need to know what makes a particular student excited. When we know what interests the students have, then we can use that to engage them willingly in the writing process. Downing also tells us to offer choices when and wherever possible throughout the day for reading and writing. For example, allowing the student to choose whether to write words or draw pictures within an assignment, choosing topics from a predetermined list, keeping in mind the student's interest, and or using a word bank for the student, selecting which order he or she is going to put the information in, when the order is not important at least. These are just a few choices, making options that can be incorporated into a writing assignment. Graphic organizers, or thinking maps as I like to call them, are another way to provide written expression opportunities for a student who needs to be engaged in literacy activities. These maps can be used with AAC in a variety of ways besides connecting to a computer. If a student is using icons or pictures or objects, use a few choices to help them organize their words on a poster board or a large piece of paper. This is the writing assignment, and it can be turned in or displayed just like any other student's work. Using predictable writing charts is another great example of how working together in a social setting can enrich all students' literacy experiences by working on writing a book together. See the University of North Carolina's website, Center for Literacy and Disability Studies, for more details. This particular link gives step-by-step details on the writing process. Writing a book together can be an excellent way to work on many skills, from choice making, reading, sentence completion, or socially engaging students. Printing and putting these stories into a classroom library can be very popular. This is also another way to make the content meaningful, developmentally appropriate, socially and cognitively engaging. These websites can make writing a book as easy as pie, just to get you started. Carolyn Musselwhite says that you can write a story in a New York minute. If you're at a loss how to write stories that are interesting, and especially for your older students who have early reading and writing skills, I suggest you look at her write-up of Karen Erickson's work here at the aacinterventions.com. There's another example I'd like you to take a moment to look at, but since I don't have permission to actually download the video, I'm going to show you how to get to it yourself on the web. It is at the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies, and it documents some case studies about how they teach students to use alternative pencils. It helps them not only become more effective communicators, but writers as well. Let's take a look at Matthew's story. Start on my website, go to Assistive Technology, Helpful Hints, the Center for Literacy Disability Studies, and as you can see, there's a resources section to get to Matthew's story. And then Matthew's story, there's a lot of details about when he started the program, how he progressed, his first experience using an alternative pencil, and how he then progresses in about a year and a half using that alternative pencil. And he goes from just random letters to putting spaces between letter chunks or letter strings. And then as you scroll on down, he starts putting words together in a sentence or a phrase-like format. If you read through that description on that situation in which they were working on writing, you'll see that he had access to writing tool that worked for him, practice writing at home and school, self-selected writing topics, using remnant books for selecting topics. Topic selection helped facilitate the communication process, which in turn enhanced the writing process. Remnant books are another great option for increased literacy opportunity. These books are just another way to record a student's personal experiences so that they can share them with others in another avenue and engage them in socially meaningful literacy opportunities. Okay, we're going to talk about remnant books just really quick. Remnant books can come in a variety of ways. There are some that you could just do photo books. I had a great summer, so it's a broader topic. One about a specific event. I went to a motorcycle rally, and then adding comments to each picture so the nonverbal kid could share the book with somebody who maybe couldn't necessarily know what he experienced or she experienced while at that event, or one that was done by uploading pictures and sending them to online Photoshop and creating the book for you. Another way to do a remnant book is through objects, which is probably the more common way. And here we've got objects just in a clipboard so that they're not easily lost. They're also Velcroed in so that they're not just a jumble in there. They're more organized. And then as your preferences or topics change, you could change the objects or create volumes depending on the experience and the remnants that you wanted to keep. My favorite way to do a remnant book is pencil pockets in a notebook. So like this is a notebook of a special event. We had this really awesome chocolate bar while we were on a trip, and we won a medal when we were at Special Olympics event. And if you did more things, you could add more pencil bags to this. Remnant books are a great way to allow a student who has less formal communication skills to be able to socially engage, and a way to expand on communication, both receptive and expressive way, as well as with your written communication piece. Now that I've shared some ideas with you, we're going to watch a little video clip, and I want you to think about how you can turn this activity into a literacy experience if you were doing it with a student. And think about in what ways this activity could involve writing. Okay, the student looked like he was having really a lot of fun with that, right? Some things that could be incorporated with that activity in and of itself. I hope you thought of at least one of these now that I've given you some examples, but here are some that I thought of after we did this activity. You could have a schedule of the steps for making the jello so that he could read and follow the steps and even cross them off when he was finished. Take photos of the student and how to do each step. Write a book with the photos as you did the steps afterward. And then you can take that book and share it with peers. Look, first I boiled the water, then etc., etc. Students can ask questions. Have you ever made jello before? Do you like orange jello? So making that socially more meaningful with the shared jello experience. Answering questions about the experience, maybe from a prepared list that has been rehearsed, so they can practice how to answer the questions with whatever system they're using to communicate. What methods could he use to write this information down? The book could be developed in a graphic organizer or thinking map, by pictures, or like word bank tiles, an alternative pencil of some sort to spell out the words. Be creative. I hope that you're getting a feel for how writing really can look very different, but still be actually written expression.